going on, DJ Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Wells Fargo Championship. As usual, I am here with the GBP King, the Canadian Pitbull, everybody's favorite Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, what is up, my friend?
Don't know if I'll be your favorite Canadian after we have this each way conversation today, Kenny, but we'll get to it. Before we get into it, want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by PrizePicks.com. If you haven't yet done so, jump on over to PrizePicks.com, use promo code MMN, get yourself a 100% deposit bonus up to your first $100. A lot of stuff incoming right now. Like Kenny said, Wells Fargo this week got a designated event. We got another major coming up in 2 weeks, the PGA Championship. So now is the time to hop on. A lot going on at PrizePicks. You can get in on all different kinds of picks, plays, tons of different ways. Check it out, PrizePicks.com. Use promo code MMN to get that bonus on sign up. Kenny, the Each Way King, what's going on? What's happening? You got your money. Results oriented? You were right. You won $6 extra.
Let's go ahead and talk about the last week first, and then we'll get into that.
Okay. We'll save it.
So this past week, of course, was, I don't even remember what fucking tournament it was. Mexico Open again. We had our top two dogs up there, Rahm and Finau. Finau out there. I mean, I think Rahm, Finau, Homa, and Tom Kim have won like 15 of the last like 30 events, something like that. Like those four guys. Scheffler too. Yeah, Scheffler too. Throw those guys. Actually, like not even Scheffler. If you throw Scheffler in there, that's like they've won like 20. Those five golfers have won like 20 of the last 30 events, which is just crazy. If you think about it, we don't have to deal with any Rahm or Scheffler this week, but Finau's in it again. I would not be shocked if his ass goes back to back. We saw it last week. Enjoyable tournament. The studs were there. Everyone gives Tony a hard time for now not winning the big time events, but he held off Jon Rahm in the final group. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's something to hang your hat on. The best player in the world this year. Tony went out and beat him. Tony, the way he's been playing this year, reminds me of someone this week who I think can win as well, Sung J M, a guy who has just been literally, man, that's a really important call I should take, but we're in the middle of the pod, so I'm not going to take it. Finau has been going through this season with, 10th, 15th, 18th, 21st, 13th. It's always in that top 25 range, playing well, but just hasn't really gotten past that limit. And you finally saw it happen this past week. Again, the field wasn't great, but it did take down Jon Rahm. Sungjae going through the same thing. I think 6, 7 top 25s in a row. A win's coming for him. I could see it this week. Other guys, of course, Akshay Bhatia. He went off. He played very, very well. Him and Rahm were two of my cash game cornerstones. So they finished second and fourth. Pretty easy cash, even with the MJ Duffy miscut 5-6. It was still A-OK. So it was a pretty decent week. I did pretty well in GPPs with 45% Tony Finau. I think I had 30% Rahm, just like where everyone else had a ton of Akshay too. So good week overall for me. What'd you think of the event?
Overall, is what it is. The Mexico Open. I thought that in hindsight, going back to even last season, another event that Tony Finau was in the mix at was the RBC Canadian Open. Another, sort of nationwide open event. In the Canadian Open, we had all the best players. Remember the way it shook out? It was the live opening, all that stuff. And what happened? All the best guys rose to the top in a very bad field otherwise. Same thing here. Start your lineups, Rahm, Finau. There's a bunch of guys that found their way into the top. The Smothermans, the Taylors. Champ was cheaper on the board. Harry Hall was 7,400, I think, last week. Toasty got through. Toasty, this man, 6,500. No one even knew what he looked like last week to get him to 12% ownership. And the guy comes in and just crushes with, I think he had an eagle or two on the final round. Like the guy just went off, did his job. So he ended up in those lineups. And then a bunch of other guys as well. Kevin Roy, Vincent Norman was popular at 7,200, Sig at 7K, all those guys. But either way, it's another event. We tackled it. Those two coming in the exact top two. I believe I didn't look back. The broadcast was talking about, obviously we knew the previous year was Rahm Finau versus this year was Finau Rahm. But wasn't Brandon Wu up there last year too?
He was third.
I think it was like the same 1, 2, 3.
It's the same 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff. Akshay, who you talked about, just showed some incredible stuff on Sunday. didn't have it really, but, looked good over the first 3 days. The Saturday round, really good. Finau, though, some of those pars, you said it, Kenny, taking a little bit of flack. I know the guy plays and wins these terrible events, and that's what happened last year. You mentioned earlier when he went back-to-back, and that was featured on the Netflix special, Full Swing, where it was him going. They didn't give him the credit. He walks out the next week. I think it was the BMW or something, and wins that at the timing of that situation. So the point being, he could go back this week. I got no problem with it. Like you said, he still held off the world number one in the same group, did not falter, and really, some of those par putts that he had to have, just making those was incredible. There was like 2 holes there. I think it was 8 and 11, or can't remember the exact ones, but just 2 huge pars that could have changed it huge or big time in the other sense. And he goes out and gets the job done on those too. So to me, you can only beat what's in front of you. Anybody can join it if they want to. They won't, because we know how the schedule sets up. But the point being, he beat everybody that was there. And realistically, some of the conversation going in, even from myself included, last year with Rahm, it's not a birdie fest. This year actually was more of a birdie fest and eagle fest and all that stuff. But last year, I think it was 17 under. Rahm got the job done. It was by 1 stroke. Usually in these types of events, Kenny, you see other guys come up. That's why you saw some of these guys that were in the mix and start taking it down. You could see them get lucky and have those rounds, or even maybe Bhatia could have had that 64 on Sunday or something and get the job done there and put a low number. But either way, Finau held him off, got it done by 3. Could have got it done by 4 or 5. I thought he looked fine on Sunday, so congrats to him. Huge event, huge win for him. 6 wins down. I think they said it's 5 in the last 20 events or something like that, or 18, just going off. So good for Tony. And funny enough, just another little tidbit there, you mentioned it on Sung Jae. There's another guy this week that's going through the motions of top 20s, Kenny. And it's a guy that's actually won here before in the past, Ricky Fowler, who everyone's talking today about his price, squeezed right between Justin Thomas and Cam Young, who we'll get to that later when we get to the tiers. But another guy that's going through the motions. A lot of these guys, man, just they're right there. They're right there. They're right there. It only takes one to pop off. So see what happens this week. Any other thoughts from you on the event? Just general all around happenings. I mean, Rahm's round on Saturday, incredible. 61, just couldn't miss. Michael Kim was on his Twitter. He's getting a little bit better at Twitter, was talking about how incredible it was to be in the presence of greatness and a guy like Rahm playing at his absolute finest. But that was a crazy round on Saturday.
No, I got nothing to add. Let's talk about each way betting. Again, I'm new to the each way betting scene. I've only probably been doing it since like late March. So like 4 or 5 weeks. I've been doing the each way betting. And so what did I Bhatia? He was 90-1, and I had him 5 places each way. So Tambo, why don't you explain, or I guess just what that means by itself, nothing else, just how the each way pays out and how the each way betting works. Go ahead.
I'll explain it
and then I'll go over more of my scenario afterwards.
Real easy. You had Bhatia at 90-1. You chose to put $24 on it, but you split it. You split your stake. So you had $12 on the 90-1, and you had $12 on the each way. In this case, was a 1/4 odds at 5 places, which means if he comes top 5, you get paid out 22.5-1 on that $12. If he wins, you get paid out the 22.5-1 on that $12 and the 90-1 on the other $12. So where $24 at 90 would pay X, you'll see your bet only pays a maximum of this amount. I'm not doing the math in my head right now, but based on everything I just explained. So your decision, and then you can go into it, was to see where you're at. And when you got there, you cashed out at the whatever they were giving you based on your $12 each way bet, or $24 total, split 12-12. Yep, go ahead.
So after round 3, Bhatia was 2 back. He was tied with Rahm at -17, 2 strokes behind Finau. They were all going to be playing in the same group. So the way I thought about this situation, the cash out option I had was $290. I think that's $6 more than what I would have made if I took the cash out at the end of the tournament. Okay, the $6 ain't shit. So it was basically the same amount that I would have won if I waited until after the final round. My train of thought was, there's no way he's going to beat Rahm and Finau. Okay, and I personally think that the odds of him dropping out of the top 5, he was about 4 or 5 strokes ahead of the top 5. He had cushion going into Sunday. But I was like, I think it's more likely that he gets caught up in the moment playing with 2 of the best golfers in the world for the first time in his life in a final round Sunday. And so I thought Well, he's not going to win. I think his odds are way higher, and I was not correct about this, but at least when it comes to pure math, I was not correct. But I thought that his odds of him dropping out of the top 5 were going to be a lot higher than him winning the event. Now, after I put this out on Twitter, I had people telling me I was an idiot. That's cool. I'm here to learn myself. You know what I'm saying? Because this is new to me. I've only been doing it for about 5 weeks. And so you guys at home can learn with me. So what Josh Perry told me was one of the best follows out there, one of the sharpest gamblers out there, and that man puts like his mortgage on the line every week. He ain't like me betting a couple $100 a week, or like $500 on DraftKings a week. He's putting thousands up there. He's a very, very sharp guy. If you don't follow him, you have to go follow him. Just ask me on Twitter. I don't know his Twitter handle off the top of my head. But what he told me was there was an 8% chance, just mathematically, that Batia could win, and there was a 10% chance that he could fall out. So basically that means there was like 90% chance that he was going to win or stay in the top 5. And that was the mistake I made, because Tambo, explain to the people how the math works in that situation and why I should have kept the bet going into Sunday.
Yeah, and some books, just so people are aware out there, don't even let you cash out each ways in some cases, because it's just kind of like that's what you set yourself up for. You're getting all of it, or you're getting the top 5 when it shakes out at the end at the 22.5. In your case, would have been around 270. So you came out in the end, just so people know, results oriented, you came out like $20 ahead at the 290, but that's not what we're looking at. And this was the case. And that's why, again, it's not you. I'm not coming at my boy Kenny here. I'm just saying the cash out for suckers.
No, I mean, obviously,
the money. That's why they put it up there. They're hoping someone sees this and is like, oh, let me just take my money now, because while it says there's only a give or take 9% chance that he wins, it's golf. It's one round. Literally anything could happen. He hits a 64. Rahm Finau posts 68s. He's only back 2. Boom, he wins. Like that. That's the case that we were looking at. Is it likely there's pressure? Yeah. Is it likely, he's going up against 2 of the best. He's two favorites of the field by a wide margin. The guys that finished top 2 last year, and it's Batia. I get it. I'm saying there's more to it. I'll get to it in a second, but that was the point there. The bigger factor was the one, you were calculating like the win odds versus the top 5 odds, taking money that you were hoping for a top 5. So realistically, to me and to everybody I think that's out there, is saying you should only be looking at the top 5 odds. This guy had a 4-stroke gap on falling out of the top 5. On top of it, that still involves what others behind him do. That still involves what if Rahm comes back, and on the bigger part, what if he does his job and goes out and does well? It's a scoring course. He's playing incredible golf. You bet him for a reason. You thought he could win. It should be no surprise when you get there. I know you've got more rebuttal to this in a second. It's good for people to learn from, but when you go and see him up against Finau and Rahm, what did you expect? I know this is a rare scenario where it actually was those 2, but it's like the tournament started when you bet his number in the with Rahm market. I'm glad that you did. I like that market. You got a better number. You had a better each way because of it. But my point being, it shouldn't have been a surprise there. He's only 2 back. So what you should have seen is, and this did play out, this is results oriented, but this is the math going back to it. He had a 91% chance to top 5, which means stay up there. He had, just so people know, the worst round of anybody in the top 25 to end the tournament yesterday, and he still cleared top 5 by 2 strokes. That's how, that was the math, and that's why taking the bet, you still came out ahead, and most people said, well, either way, Kenny still did good, he still got his money, and that's okay. But what it is, you're supposed to, unless it's like life-changing money or whatever it might be, you should be free rolling that situation. And if he does fall out because it's not a free roll, there's a 9% chance. You're right. But if it falls out, so be it. We move on to next week, and that's what we bet it for. There was a way high, the likelihood of the math and everything that was there was that he was going to hang on. And if he doesn't, you just pack it up and move on to next week. Now, that's not how you fully think. People love you because you are unapologetically yourself, genuine. You threw it out there even after people came at you as jokes on Twitter. You said, no, I might have fucked this up. Yeah. Let me know what's up. What's the math? What's the thoughts? What's the breakdown? And so it's okay. And that's where I'll kick it back to you, because you have a different side to this. You're seeing it from a different angle. So go ahead and speak on that.
Yeah, okay, for the thing about me, people ask me why I'd cash out. It's not life-changing money. No, it's not. I mean, it's like $270. It's whatever, $290. But I judge how I'm doing on a week-to-week basis on a winning week. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if I win thousands or $25. You know what I'm saying? Like the way I judge how I'm doing in DFS and gambling and stuff like that is on a week to week. How many weeks have I won? How many weeks have I lost? Yeah, some weeks I'm going to win a lot more than other weeks, and a loss is just a loss. That's how I go about me playing these games. Because I'd like to keep a winning record, a winning week more than half the time. You do that, then you should be close to at least break even, which is a goal of mine. You know what I'm saying? Like in 8 years, 9 years I've done this, I've only been up 3 years. I've been up in 8 years. I've been up 3 years. I've been right around even, within like $200 of even 2 years, and then I've lost 3 years. So I mean that's how my game has gone through this time. And the last couple of years have been losses because of I haven't been that great gambling, betting. I've only hit like, I don't know, in the last 2 years, I've probably only hit maybe 10 outrights or something like that, which is not great. Now the 2 years prior to that was crazy when I was on my heater before COVID hit. Those 2 years were insane. I won like six. I hit 6 outrights in the fall of 2019. The fall swing. There's only like 10 events. I hit like 6 of them. So, I mean, there's always ups and downs when it comes down to it. And it's been sort of down the last couple of years. But now with the E-Trade market that I have, I like playing it, and I like trying to learn more about what I should do and what I shouldn't do in that situation. So basically in that situation, I should have just let it ride, because 90% chance that I was going to get the top 5 anyways.
It was so much in your favor, but just to answer, to say one point to what you said there, because I think a lot of it's good. And again, it's the way you think about it. And it's your money too. People need to remember that it's your money. The math says a way to go here. Yes. But my only thing would be in the rebuttal, and I'm sure many have that we're following along and going with that, is you just said your main thing was to take it and make sure you had a winning week, because those winning weeks are so important to you. But what we're trying to say from the math side of things, just the basics, is that you were so likely to get that protection.
You get the win anyways, right?
But what you really took off the table when you cashed out was you may have made up for your next 4 losing weeks if he goes out and wins and gets a job. I know your gut said there was no chance, but we were talking 2 strokes, playing great golf. Anything can happen on this type of course where scoring's crazy. It was definitely a possibility. And if you lose it, you lose it. But what we're saying is you were pretty much in the clear. I'll call it free rolling. Nothing's free rolling, but you were so close to that. And if he goes on to win, you could have cost yourself like 3 or 4, or made yourself 3 or 4 more, however you want to look at it, whichever angle, 3 or 4 more winning weeks by protecting it, by getting a win in this spot and not cashing out from that potential win. And likely still, where, like I said, worst round of anyone in the top 25 on Sunday still clears the each way by 2 strokes. It was just very, very, very likely. And with how good he was playing, fearless too.
Yeah. So basically, I missed out on that small chance that he could have won. Is basically what it comes down to.
Almost,
and of course, there was a chance of him winning, but I just didn't think it was going to happen. And that's the way I thought of it before. Now, if I go back into the situation, I'd probably let it ride. Now, what would you have done if so he was tied for second at 17. What if there were 5 guys at 16 under? Would that have been maybe a sharper play to take the cash out?
You always have to look at the math. I probably would never, like I said, I would assuredly never cash out, because I just can't think of the spot where it's going to be enough for me to care and see it from that angle. They're also not likely to give you, some books won't even give it to you at all as a cash out option. Also, like I said, if they are, it's likely what people would call it. They call it like a cash out for suckers, but it's not really. It's just like it is and it isn't. They're doing it because they're like, holy shit, the math says this. Let's hope that he takes 15 to 20% less than this spot is actually worth, and go from there. They really, I mean, in the end, it is what it is, but I'm just saying that's really what they're trying to do in that spot, versus you could just let it ride, and in the end, it would have been fine either way. But all I'm saying is people that were focusing on Kenny was right. He only had like a 10% chance to win, not even.
No, I get all that, but
people can't focus on that when it was, you were protected no matter what in the top 5 to a 91% chance. So you just, he's unlikely to win. We all know that. He's going up against Rahm and Finau in a final group in a tournament. He's only 2 back, but that wasn't the focus. The focus was you had almost 91% chance to get your each way money anyway, which was only $20 less in this case. Just let it ride. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think it's 100% correct. That's probably what I should have done. I agree with that. I just didn't
One thing
think
you
like
didn't even
that.
say though, Kenny, to put some props back to you for a thought process though, is like you didn't even mention here. We talked pre-show some, but like you said, like some that don't know about each way betting yet are just getting into it. Like you mentioned, look at the top 5 odds on him, and look at what you get with this spot. Forget about what we just talked about because cashing out or not, all that. But the point was, you did pick up better top 5 odds on him.
Yes.
By going this way and choosing to pick that way. So, I mean, that's another thing. Again,
and that's really why I made the bet. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I have him as an outright, but, I thought it was more likely it was going to be a top 5. And then, but then again, if you think about it, if I put all $24 on the top 5, which is like plus 1,800 or something like that.
That's why it's the opposite. Exactly.
I probably would have made more money that way. So I don't know. I understand the way it is. And maybe I get to the point that if you didn't think he would win, why place that bet? I think I understand it a little bit more today than I did at that point in time. Just because if I went ahead and just put that $24 just on the top 5,
I really thought he was getting outright, top 5, put it on that, or go to the without ROM market and put it on that, and then hope it's just Finau that stumbles against. Like, but really, if the way you said it to me was like you bet it for the top 5, I get why you did that for the better odds. I was saying, but to your point, that's what people are saying. Why didn't you just take that money and slam it all on a top 5 then or something? If that's
even though the odds are worse, I'm still putting the same more money into that than the top 5 of the each way, so it would pay more. So I understand that.
Yeah, I don't know what you said is top. What did you say his top 5 odds were?
I think it was like plus 1,800 or something like that.
So yeah, like you would have. It's almost it's like 150 or 160 bucks more.
Yeah.
And if that's all you were really playing for, but this way, the reason that's better is that you get better top 5 odds, and so this is why we bet the each ways is because of this. You don't have to bet that lower number, and you get to take the shot. But that's what that's the whole argument here is that you had.
That's what I understand now better
to get those odds. Plus, you had the chance that what if he hits that low number on Sunday in Mexico, where it could happen. And I mean, it wasn't. He's 4th place standalone by 2 strokes over 5th. Still, he was just in a really good spot. You have to let that ride. That's all.
All right, that sounds good. Let's move on to our listener league winner. Our winner this week, of course, I am not ready because we were talking about all this stuff and I wasn't paying attention. Also, I'm getting text messages about work, and I had this huge job coming up. It's a government job, and if I win the job, my boss told me I can get a 6-figure bonus. So I am definitely trying to win this job, but I'll take care of that afterwards, after the pod.
The jokes that never end. Kenny's waiting on a 6-figure bonus, cashing out $270 on box.
I know, right?
Give me that $270, baby. 6-figure.
Hey, you know what? Like I said, it's honest. I want winning weeks. It's not really about the money. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to mark down this week as a winning week, and that's the way I went about it. All right, so the listener league winner for this past week was My Bad Rash. I've had a few of those. It looks like some type of clock. I'm sure it's a clock that's been on a golf course. But My Bad Rash. He came in first. He had Tony Finau, the winner, who was 30% owned in the listener league. That's solid work. Of course, he finished first. Emiliano Grillo, who we will talk about later, 9% owned. Finished in 5th, playing really good golf. Lashley statted out really well last week. I ended up playing a little bit of him. 10% owned, finished in 39th. Harry Hall, $7,400, 5.5% owned. He had a really nice finish with the top 10 at -13, and he had Batia, of course, who finished 4th solo, 19% owned. What'd you think?
One of the best lineups I've seen in all season of us doing this, actually. From a roster construction standpoint, when you took slate dynamics and that results oriented, it's one of the better lineups. I think 685 or something won all the main GPPs. So incredible score, but I'll explain it really quickly. So Finau or Rahm decision was made up top. That's fine. I don't nothing to do with that. But if you look, 10K, 8K, 8K, 3 7Ks. Even that nowadays in roster construction standpoint, people understand this and they see it. Okay, I'm going to skip some zones. We have this conversation on here all the time, Kenny, about, like, for example, they skipped the entire 9K range, which had Wyndham Clark, Gary Woodland, Højgaard, Rogers, Benny An, like all these guys, Benny An, where people were on these guys in some way, shape, or form. skip that entirely and just avoids that FOMO of whatever happens, happens, I'm going to hop down to Woo and Grillo, and then I'm going to round it out with 3 7K guys. But one of the most interesting parts is not only ending at 7,400, but if you remember last week, the main guys were like Will Gordon, Lee Hodges, Luke List, Joe Bramlett. Some of them did good. Joseph Bramlett did well. But just to say, that was the hot spot, the upper 7K range. And instead, My Bad Rash went Lashley, Hall, Bhatia. Bhatia and Finau, top and bottom, heavily owned. The middle, all 10% or under, while skipping zones, while skipping some of the chalk zones within the zones, if that makes sense. So definitely from a roster construction standpoint, if I'm looking at it from a strategy perspective, one of the better lineups I've seen all season on here, maybe the best, to be honest. So shout out to My Bad Rash. Got him in the Tournament of Champions, which is going to be incredible this year. I can tell you that already. Just looking ahead, it's going to be one of our best ones there. And then on top of that, we'll see him in the 3-man this week.
All right, so let's get to this week. Let's get to the course. PGA Tour, it's Charlotte, North Carolina this week. It's players, as golfers play the Wells Fargo Championship from Quail Hollow Golf Club. The course was revamped a bit for the PGA Championship 5 years ago, but it looks like the extreme difficulty of Quail Hollow during the PGA Championship is not going to be in play this week. Now, this course is not a cakewalk by no means. I mean, the winning scores the last few years are like -10, -12, -9, -14. It's going to be in that type of range. So this is not an easy course. The first 5 holes are actually all redone or dramatically altered in that course renovation in 2016, 2017. There's also a bit of smaller changes on 9 and 11. 3 main differences that happened during this was hole number 1 was dropped to a 495-yard par 4. The par 3 fourth hole dropped about 20 yards. And now, plus the course now only has 3 par 5s, not 4. Outside of the first 5 holes, the course is going to look pretty similar, what people have seen prior to the change. And so, I don't know when you look at course history, because course history is relevant at this course. I think it's top 10 most relevant when it comes to course history in the last 10 years or so. And, looking prior to 2017, it's a little bit different back then. 4 par 5s, a lot easier type course. Winning scores were in the high teens. It's not like that anymore. And another thing that you notice in these elevated events here recently, what you notice is, some of these courses where they've only had 1.5, 2-inch rough the years prior. A lot of these elevated events, that all these courses that have been hosting elevated events, have had a little bit thicker, higher rough than they normally have had. I don't know if their PGA's doing this on purpose to make it more challenging on these elevated type events, but it's something that we've seen throughout the year. So, I mean, the grass, the rough here, usually only about 1.5 to 2 inches. If it gets to 2.5 to 3 inches, something like that, I mean, it could get real tough. I mean, -10 is realistically could win this event. -9 could win this event if it's going to be like that. And so we'll have to check and see and read the reports as the week goes on how thick that rough is going to be. Now, of course, the course is best known for its closing 3-stretch hole, nicknamed the Green Mile. One of the toughest closing stretches on tour, and no lead is safe on Sunday going in the 16, 17, and 18. The 16th hole, 508-yard par 4, 17th, 221-yard par 3, 18th, 500-yard par 4. That's 3 very, very long holes, nicknamed super appropriate. If golfers play these holes at even par, they're going to deserve a pat in the back, and they might be holding the trophy when it comes on Sunday. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, if your golfers are at or near the cut line coming into these 3 holes on Friday, you're going to need to say a little prayer. Now, you really notice the length of the course when you see the yardages of where most approach shots are hit from. Since 2005, over 55% of all approaches have come from 175 yards or more. And that percentage could go up, has been up a little bit more than that the last few years. Just because the old par 5 fifth hole being dropped, the old par 5 fifth hole being dropped to a long par 4. So no laying up on that one. Everyone's just going for it. So that adds another, definite over 200 yards, over 175 yard approach shot. Now, Quail Hollow Golf Club, 7,600 yard par 71, 4 par 3s, 3 par 5s. The par fives are reachable by the majority of golfers in the field as long as the fairways have a bit of roll and the course isn't soaked. Golfers need to take advantage of the par fives as they are some of the easiest holes on the course. Looking at previous winners here, the majority of them, dominated the par fives. Like when James Hahn won like 7 years ago, he was -9 on the par fives. Rory won, not in 2020, but the time before that, he was -13 on the par fives. JB Holmes in 2014, -10 on the par fives. The course played as a par 71 with only 3 par fives for the PGA Championship. Justin Thomas still shot -7 on the 12 par fives on his way to victory. 3 years ago, or I'd say about 5 years ago, was the first time Quail Hollow only had 3 par fives for the Wells Fargo. Jason Day shot -9 on the par fives on his way to his win. The par threes, fairly lengthy, as 3 of them are in the 200 to 250 yard range. Even par, great score on the par threes this week. The par fours, for the most part, very long. 7 of the par fours range from 449 to 500 yards. 2 of them are 500 to 525 yards. And there's also 2 very short and possibly drivable holes, 8th and the 14th. Typically, the rough and the fairways are overseeded with ryegrass and blended with the Bermuda grass this time of year. The greens are normally Bermuda, overseeded with Poa trivialis. Now, after the conclusion of the Wells Fargo every year, the greenskeeper, they lay an herbicide that kills all the rye and Poa on the course, and it goes full Bermuda until the fall. But you're going to get a blend at this time of the year, especially since, of course, the weather's been sort of chilly the last couple of weeks here in the Mid-Atlantic. Now, 4 years ago during the PGA, 5 years ago during the PGA Championship, I just lost my spot. That sucks. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so 5 years ago during the PGA Championship, the course was full Bermuda, but it won't be this year. Now, off the tee, golfers will see narrow to average width tree-lined fairways that are some of the hardest fairways to hit on tour, with an occasional fairway bunker and water only on a few holes. Less than 50% of the fairways have been hit by golfers since this tournament began here in the early 2000s. But since the trees aren't that bunched up and there aren't too many bunkers of water off the tee, missing fairways won't mean automatic bogey. But the normal 2-inch rough is tall, it's sort of gnarly. Like I said earlier, if it gets to 3 inches, it's going to make it a lot tougher. When golfers miss the fairway, hitting it long, of course, will be helpful, since it's much easier to hit a shorter iron to the green out of the thick rough. Accuracy off the tee is going to be useful, but JB Holmes won here with only 26 of 56 fairways hit. Jason Day won here 2018, hitting less than half of his fairways too. So it's obviously not the end-all be-all. I wouldn't avoid shorter hitters altogether. If they have good green and regulation stats, especially with long irons that can putt well, shorter hitters could be worth using. Also, targeting golfers with good proximity stats from the rough could be key. The average proximity of approach shots from the rough at Quail Hollow is usually the worst on tour. And again, if that rough is higher than normal, that's going to be even more tougher. Another aspect of the tee, off the tee for golfers to face, is a lot of right to left dog legs, which could favor golfers who hit a natural draw. On approach shots, golfers will be hitting into greens that are average in size with multi-tiers and massive undulation. Bunkers surround some of these greens, and water is in play on a couple of approach shots as well. After having some problems with the greens upkeep, the course switched to Champion Bermuda greens, overseeded with Poa a few years ago. These are very difficult greens to putt on. Over the years, this course has consistently had the lowest make percentage in putts inside of 10 feet. Even though I don't mention it in like the key stats I'm looking for and stuff like that, looking at good putters inside of 10 feet might be a good play as well. The stip meter this week, probably around 12. We saw it at like 13 and a half for the President's Cup last year. I don't think it's going to be that fast. I think 12 is probably going to be right where it's going to be, which is still pretty quick. And of course, check the weather forecast to see if there's going to be any type of advantages. Tambo, what are you looking for in golfers this week?
Can't get any deeper than that. That was a good one today. That's a lot. We got history here, though. Like you said, so course history itself, pretty sticky, even since the changes were made that you talked about. You go back and look all around golfers. Obviously, the field just got harder. It's a designated event. Everybody's here. Tough field, tough course, all those factors. So my stuff that I look at stats-wise is all pretty balanced for this week for the most part. You talked about stroke chain, par 5, some of that stuff I like. And then stronger field, like strategy-wise, the stronger field, softer pricing rules apply, which means, again, ownership going to be pretty spread out, besides the certain places that it's not. We'll talk about Rory in a minute, go there. But I'm going to spend this time for 2 seconds, Kenny. First off, got to thank my guy, Jeff. Masters hat down here. Got me some stuff for the Masters. Got me that, a ball marker. I want to say thank you to Jeff. I've never been there. Bucket list. I know you've been. I want to go there for sure, but getting me that and waiting in the pro shop while he's getting the other stuff and hooking me out. Very much thankful to Jeff. Put it right on the shelf. It's going to stay there. I like that hat. Next thing, the Listener League. It is not out as of the time we're recording this. I'm hoping it's out by the time we get off. Good news, good news. The good news is, first of all, the good news is that it's going to be for 1,250 spots. And because it was on DraftKings and not me this week for getting it out there, they're going to let it just run. So it always would be that way, but they're not going to be mad about the overlay. So it's going to be fine. If it doesn't fill, let's still try and fill it. DGen Nation, we got to get this thing up to 1,250. But if we don't, it's just going to be a lot of overlay. So that's good. I think it's 1,000 to first. I can't remember exactly, maybe 750, but it's a big prize pool. Balanced as always, 10% of first place to 10th, and then double your money for min cash, $5 3 max as always. The second good news is they're not going to hold it against us for the PGA Championship. So still wanting to get to at least 1,500 for the PGA Championship, and that looks like it'll still be a go. So no issues there. Not going to hold that against us. Lastly, before we get into these tiers, Kenny, the contest. I had an elephant on my back last week, as I incorrectly said, and I forgot to mention what the actual contest was. We got a lot of likes on the video, which we do appreciate. We got to stick with those likes, but you have to like this video, and you have to comment in the comment section your big fade in the 8K range. You'll know why we're doing the 8K range when we get to it later on during these tiers. A lot of conversation to be had there, Kenny, but it's going to be your fade in the 8K range. We will be giving away tickets, whether it's the $15, $20, whatever they run, or the $100, or I should say, going to be giving away some tickets to that. So this is just one of the ways to get into the draw. Anyone that commented from last week will already be in it, but the like button and the comment, the most important thing on these videos over there on the YouTube channel. Take it away, Kenny. That's all I got.
What are you looking for in golf? Did you already go over that?
Already went over that. Everything you said.
Let's go to these tiers then. Let's start off on the top. We have Rory going all the way down to freaking Finau. How you going about this top range this week, Tambo?
Well, we got to go back to Finau, right? This is the spot. And when golfers get cheaper after a win, he got $500 cheaper. It's the spot to go back to it. So I think there's some interesting stuff you can do here. I think one, playing Finau in general, I don't know how popular he's going to be coming off a win. Usually people like Cantlay. People always like X, but X's price is interesting. I'll talk on him in a second. And of course, Rory has the best history here. Like Rory's stuff is just incredible at this course. We'll talk about him in 1 second, but just going down, the 9K range doesn't look as popular. So I think it's going to be like Rory, Cantlay as the bigger decisions, maybe X, and then drop down. I think going back to Finau, I also think skipping the 3 guys above him and starting with Finau would be unique. And then I also think just fading this range entirely is a possibility if you're building in sets. I was talking with somebody else today, sharp player, that was just going through it and talking about building in sets where maybe you're still playing Rory, you play him, but then in the other lineups, you go completely against what those Rory lineups would look like. So you still have more lineups than most leveraged in that way. But here's the thing, Kenny, Rory's history is incredible. The stats bear out. Everyone knows that Rory is at this course. Go back to our conversation earlier about the each ways. Math still says, what do you think Rory's going to be owned here? Because that's really what it comes down to. Rory. I'm
really curious about that because, he went through a lot of hate skipping the last thing. I don't think that's going to affect his ownership. I would still expect him to be high, but not like Rahm high from last week. Maybe high 20%, like 28%.
It's hard for me to go away from that. So just my favorites up front: Rory, Cantlay, and then I think X in tournaments. And like I said, Finau's there. So ranking them would be like Rory is going to be 1, Cantlay number 2. Probably X3, and then Finau, like I said, just go back to him because you can build in unique ways. But that would be my ranking for those 4.
Yeah, Rory's number 1 in my book. I think he's won this event 3 times, right? The first one was his first win ever, and on the PGA Tour. I think he missed the Masters prior to that. In 2020, he missed a cut at the Masters. He really sucked into match play, was coming in on poor form, and he won that. So I would go ahead. I would pencil him in. I got no problem with him. Finau's my number 2 play here. I like Finau a lot. I think, once he catches fire, he tends to stay hot for multiple weeks. I think he can win this event. His course history here is not the best, but the Tony we're seeing now is better than any Tony in the past. So I'm not too worried about, his just above average course history. It's definitely not elite. I don't think he's finished top 10 here ever. Maybe his first time, maybe, but it's been a while. But I still like him. He's my second favorite play. I almost rostered him in cash. I decided to go another strategy in cash to try and get like 4 studs in my lineup. So, and I like X. I can't decide between X and Cantlay right now. I think I'm going to play Xander because overall his overall game is so good, and he's just a little better with his longer irons than Cantlay is. And I think I'm going to start almost all of my lineups with one of these 3 guys. I think it's just going to start with like 45% Rory, like 25% Finau, 30% Xander. Probably is how I'm going to start it, unless I decide to flip and go Cantlay. That last spot is I'm not 100% sure. But that leaves more. That leaves our next tier. Like you said, do you think it's going to go overlooked the 9K range?
Upper 9K, I could see people are just going to decide on the guy up top, and then after that, it drops down to like Hovland, Im, maybe Day. And then, of course, you got to remember, which we're going to get to this, it's the elephant in the room this time, Kenny, is when we get to the 8K range. Justin Thomas, 8,900 again. And then you've got Cam Young, 8,700. There's people talking about Sam Burns, people like Thigala. Like, again, there's all these things that just make it so you could see Morikawa, Spieth, Homa, even with his history, and Fitzpatrick all go overlooked, I think, in this 9K range. And then one of those guys up top, besides the fact, like we just said, Rory likely gets overlooked in the sense of, sorry, I shouldn't say overlooked. He doesn't go over-owned because there's so many options, right? Is what we were trying to say. Like, it's not like we're going to see Rory 35 or 40% in most cases. I highly doubt that, at least maybe by the time we get to Thursday, but we'll see. But I'm just saying, like, your point on X, or if you go back to Finau or something like that, I just think people want to stay up there and skip over this or go to one of Hovland or Im at the bottom who will like, versus go to Morikawa, Spieth, Homa, and Fitz. What's your thoughts on that? That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy that sticks out to me is Fitz, and I'm hoping that he gets lower owned coming off a win. He's gained so much yardage off the tee. I mean, he's fucking long now. The guy bombs it out there. Okay, his iron game hasn't been the greatest, but he's really good. But the length is there. He's good around the greens. I just like, and I think hopefully that he's going to be under owned because Homa, normally you play Homa on Homa tracks. He's basically become the new Bubba Homa, in my opinion, where you play Homa on Homa tracks. This is a Homa track. People know it's a Homa track. I mean, I know his win last year doesn't count because it happened at in Potomac, but he still won here in 2019, 2020. One of those years he won it here. And so I like him, but I don't know. I think I'd rather play Fitz at lower ownership, who's just been playing really well, and the injury bug is gone. Now, my 2 cash game cornerstones, they're going to start at this low 9K range. It's going to be Hovland, who finished 6th here last year. Ball striking supreme. The thing about it is you do have to, there is a good amount of around the green play because of all the long irons you're going to hit. And the green regulation percentage here is not very high. I think it's averaged maybe around 55%, 60%, something like that, which is, I think that the tour average is 65. So you're going to miss some of these greens, especially if that rough is up. We'll see how that goes during the week. But the around the green game play here is pretty easy. Like the difficulty around the green is like outside the top 20, outside the top 25 difficulty around the green at this event year in and year out. So it's not that hard to get it up and down. So that should hopefully help the people who suck around the green. We'll see. But the one thing you notice about Hovland this year is we've seen some glimpses of like really strong short game. It doesn't happen like consistency is probably not there as much as he'd like, but he's made some really nice, delicate type, chips from off the green. There was one, I think it was from a few weeks ago, the Heritage, where he had to hit one sky high. It was he has that in his repertoire now. It's just a matter of consistency, and hopefully his ball striking is good enough to go ahead and look over his weakness with his short game. I took the bet at 20-1 for him also. Sung Jae, I talked about him. He's due for a win. I don't have him on my card yet, but I think I'm going to add him. Again, tee to green, he's one of the best in the field. Like, he's just good at everything. Like, him and Xander are very similar about that. Like, they are well above average in basically every single strokes gained category. And this course is going to test every facet of your game. And so even though he's not the longest guy, Sung Jae's so good, he's well above average with his longer irons. I really like Sung Jae this week. I'm going to start with those two games, those two guys in my cash. And then I'm just going to go ahead to the rest of the 8K. You know what? Sung Jae's not in my cash game cornerstone, but he is in my cash lineup. So there's an extra one for you. Added that for you because I am going 4 guys in this high 8K, low 9K range in cash. It's going to be Cameron Young. It's going to be Victor Hovland, Sung Jae Im, and then my two other real cash game cornerstones, Justin Thomas and Cam Young. When it comes to JT, it's $8,900. The upside's there on a course that he has won before. He's had about 3 weeks off to shake off hopefully any type of injury, hip injury that he was facing, which was the rumor that he had. He said he's playing well. He says he's healthy. I'm ready for him to have a good week on a course where he is very, very familiar. I like JT. He's going to be my second cash game cornerstone. Third cash game cornerstone is Cam Young. The guy's playing too well. His length is going to play very, very well on this course, especially if the rough gets up to like 3 inches. If you hear that, you're going to pound him. Those are the 3 guys up here. I gave you my 4th. You fit those 4 guys in your cash lineup. You still have over $14,000 to fill out the rest of your lineup. And those 4 guys, I think, should be in everyone's top 10 favorites to win this event. So I like that in my cash lineup this week, and that's how I'm going to go about it. Other guys in this 8K range that I will be looking at. Don't sleep on the Koreans this week. I say this every week. But the last time we saw all these Koreans play on this course, they held their fucking own against the Americans in the President's Cup. It has to have some type of feel good for Tom Kim, for KH Lee, for Si Woo, for Sung Jae to come back here on a place where, they got really recognized on a global stage for some of them for the first time. And that's why I like the Koreans a lot this week. Going down a little bit more, Shane Lowry, one of my favorites down here, down below, just because of how good his long iron play is. Shane's been boom or bust all season, but I think for $8,100, it's worth the risk to play him just because of the long iron, how good he is with the long irons, and he's long enough. And I like the way his game should fit well above average around the green. Like I said, top 20 from 175 to 200 plus, top 50 in driving distance. His iron game is still strong. I like Shane a lot. Who do you like in this range?
Yeah, just going back to the 9 because I didn't really go through it, but just to talk about that top upper part where you mentioned with like Morikawa, Spieth, Homa, Fitzpatrick, all that. One of the most interesting notes, and you segued it good for me because I do want to tie it into the 8K range anyway. But so Hovland, Cam Young, and even JT, these are just some. So JT, for example, 25th, miscut, 10th, 60th. Okay, boom bust. It's JT. We know what he is. You go back, Cam Young. What do we see here with Cam Young? 51st, 7th and 2nd, 51st. It's boom, boom bust. You get that. And then who's the other guy I mentioned? JT, Cam Young, and
Hovland.
59th, 7th, 31st, 3rd. Now you go to some of the guys you were talking about, like, or I can bring it up, like Speed. I don't think you mentioned him, but just go back to it. Speed, 2nd, 4th, the 31's there, but 3rd, 4th, 6th. Like these are all the types of results he's giving you. 6th, 7th, 16th, 17th, 6th, 21st, all in that mix. Going back up top to the X-Man, you talked about 4th, 10th, 8th, 19th. He's more expensive, but just to show it, like some of these ranges, this is what we do in, week out. Home is the same. Miscut, 43rd. You're going to have to take your chances, but it's just funny to me, Kenny, that I think a lot of the ownership seemingly sits in some of these guys in this range. Hovland, JT, and Cam Young. Remember, it's not who you play, it's how you play them, but I'm just saying a lot of the ownership seemingly will sit on these guys that are much more boom bust when we have some pretty solid options around them that just come out, get the job done, give you a nice made cut, a high floor with the ceiling to get the job done of a top 7, top 6, top 5 sort of thing. And if they win, they win. We're waiting on that in some cases. So I like some of those calls that you made there. The Fitzpatrick one is pretty interesting. You talked about the distance, but also pretty good on par 5s this season as well, just in general. And like I said, that can be a big factor here. Spieth was one up in the 9K range, just to mention it. Maybe he can spray it, get away with his spray a little bit more off the tee. I know they said there was mental fatigue. Didn't look like it going out there, maybe at the last second, but I mean, he was right there in the mix. Another playoff or whatever it was at the RBC Heritage to finish 2nd. So unfortunate result, but still right in the mix. And then the guy he was with there in Fitzpatrick. So I just think looking at some of this stuff, you've got Spieth, Fitzpatrick. Then you drop down into this 8K range. I really do like the JT spot because the price is just so good, but I feel like we are getting sucked back in. I posted on Twitter today, the old, shit, here we go again setup, because that's what it feels like. The price, the setup, everything makes it seem that way. But going down, you mentioned Tom Kim. Someone posted that right away and that said, you remember what happened to JT? It was Tom Kim who was taking him down, Kenny, at this course last time out. He was one of the matchups there that Tom got the job done. Tom then went on to play Max Homa pretty heavy. He took him right to the 18th hole before losing to Homa in that sort of final matchup there. So just to look at some of these spots, and then I'm with you on Lowry. I think you could see like the Lowrys, the Fleetwood, even Harmon. You could find those guys just find their way around here, Kenny, where it's just going to be set themselves up well off the tee, find the green. If they don't find it, these guys have good short games and good around the green games enough to make it up there. And then the putting can sort of, in some cases, Kenny, the way it's set up, negate itself a little bit, and then it's just whoever finds the putter versus who is the best putter. So I think that's kind of one of the things I'm looking at in this range. I think Thigala still does stand out for those liking him. It definitely seems like a good spot for him, but that's like 4 or 5 of the guys I like in here. And then I mentioned to you earlier, last one, Kenny, everyone's saying his price is so bad, but again, going back to my same example I just gave you. So Ricky Fowler here, 4th, 21st, 5th, 4th, I think he won here back in the day. I can't remember what year, if it was at this course. He's won the Wells Fargo. I think it might have been 2012, way back in the day. But just to bring up closer results, 4th, 5th, 4th, 3 of his last 5 outings in the 21st. And then you go look at what he's been doing, right? 15th, 10th, 17th, 13th, 20th, 10th. This guy is a top 20 machine right now, and he's at 8,800. He's just over your average pricing on DraftKings and squeezed right between JT and Cam Young. I'm definitely playing some Ricky Fowler this week. I don't care what people think about him or not. He's been playing better golf. Of course, sets up well for him. To me, it makes sense in tournaments at 8,800 to throw him in the mix and get different elsewhere. So, and get different from the guys he's around, I should say, like the JT Cam Young in some spots. So I don't hate him. Do you have any Ricky Fowler thoughts or anybody else in this range?
Oh yeah, I'm playing Ricky. The guy's playing really, really well. I mean, like you said, he's been consistent. He's been playing well. He's 1 year before. I got no problem. Usually his ownership is a little bit higher than you would like, but like you said, he's going to be crammed between Cam Young and JT. That's going to take away some of his ownership.
Yeah, and last note real quick, just to go back to our guy, My Bad Rash from earlier. This is a prime example too, Kenny. If you were setting yourself up from this week, just a one-off spot here that I'm just thinking about out loud, but I was just talking about Spieth, Fitzpatrick, even like I said, up above like X or any of those guys. Like, you could build a lineup that just skips this 8K range where, yeah, there's going to be guys you're scared of. It's JT, it's Fowler we just talked about, it's Cam Young who we talked about, Thigala, all those, but you could skip that range, that little bundle right there, and just build 3 9K guys or 2 9Ks and a 10K. There is a lot of playable options when we get down to the low 7s here this week, and even some guys in the 6Ks that you can play. So I'd actually have no issue just trying to skip this bubble in some of your lineups and just take that chance in a single entry or something to build different versus worry about which one is it that's going to come through of all the guys that we just mentioned.
All right, let's go down to the 7K range. I'll just go ahead and do my last cash game cornerstone. It's going to be Emiliano Grillo. Definitely doesn't have the length of the other guys in my cash game cornerstones, but he's coming in on a couple of top 10s. He has a couple of top 15s heading at this course the last couple of times he's played. I'll go ahead and take that form, current form and course form, and go ahead and use him as my final cash game cornerstone. Of course, his iron play is the strongest thing there. Hopefully he can putt semi-decent. He's been playing, his putter's been average this season. That's sort of why he's been getting some decent finishes out here, and I don't hate him. So my cash game cornerstones this week are going to be Victor Hovland at $9,200, JT at 89, Cameron Young at 87, and Grillo at 74. This leaves like $16,000 almost to fill out the rest of your lineup. You can go all the way up to the 9K range, which is what I'm doing, because you all know I got Sungjae in that lineup. So you guys got 5 of my cash lineups, cash people this week. Now, other guys that I do like in this 7K range, Corey Connors plays really well on long courses. Even though he's short off the tee, or short-ish, he plays par 5s very, very well, and he's very good at longer courses. So I think you could take a peek at him. Keith Mitchell has the course history. A couple of, he had a good little run earlier this year. I do not hate that. I like Keegan a lot. I know his form at this course hasn't been the best, but it seems like this is the type of course where his game can be suited pretty well. I mean, again, top 20 from 175 to 200. He's not short and he's not long. He's right in the middle. Of course, his iron game is super strong. And another guy in this upper range that I might take a flyer on is Montgomery. Again, when it comes to his putting is good. He's long enough off the tee, over 200 yards, well above average. Short game, well above average. I can get behind a little Montgomery this week. Who do you like in this top 7K range?
Coco let the team down when it was here at the President's Cup. Him and Pendrith both actually played pretty poorly that week. I know it wasn't probably not going to happen anyway, but it was a fun week. I remember it. I actually think I won the main GPP that week, so I actually have good memories of that. But yeah, Coco
shocking.
Really let the squad down. Well, it just made me think this is a good spot for me. I was just remembering that, like, Quail, we're back. Let's get another GPP win this week. There's a Mega Milli up there on DraftKings. So looking at this spot, this range, I think, Keith Mitchell is going to be popular. I think Wyndham Clark is going to stay popular. And then, of course, Gary Woodland is going to be popular here as well. I know some, I bet him for sure 90. I know there's people that chase that quite a bit. We're all still up from Gary's US Open win. So that's why we can continue to bet this guy and just slowly donate it back. But in this range, some of the guys that stand out, Kenny, just looking at it, like, Keegan Bradley, go back to him. I like your Siwoo call. I like Taylor Moore and what he's been doing, obviously getting that win at the Valspar, just playing good golf. I think going to him is interesting. Patrick Rogers continues to play pretty good golf, so I don't mind him. I don't know if I can do Davis Riley now individual. He might need the teammate or something, but going back to him, I mean, he is coming off a win with a one Nick Hardy, who we can talk about later, but Cam Davis stands out at 7,500. I don't hate your Grillo call. Hayden Buckley, I like at 7,400. And then going down, there's a few other guys at the bottom, but did you have other guys up there, or do you want to talk about the bottom range?
Yeah, I mean, in the bottom range, I like Cam Davis again. I can just never get off that guy. I liked him the last time he went out and he shot like 80 on during round 1, but shot like 64 in round 2 or something like that. The last time he was out, either the last time or the time before. I like his game for this type of course. So I can get behind Cam Davis again, another guy who excels in the long iron play and is long off the tee. And when you get down to this range, you can almost pick golfers who you played last week and be pretty comfortable plugging them in. Now, the course isn't as easy, but you hit a lot of long irons, and driving distance, it was key last week. So I mean, very, very similar. The one difference that Wells Fargo is going to have is the narrower fairways, a little bit thicker rough, and of course the dog legs. But when it comes down to where golfers are hitting their shots from, pretty similar to last week. Now other guys I can get behind down here, Steven Yeager, again, who had a good showing last week. Joel Dahlman is a course history guy. That's someone who can get behind. Ben On, I think he shot 63, 64 on Sunday after having no AC in his hotel for the whole week in Mexico. So that sucks for you, Ben. I'm sorry. Again, stick with the Koreans. Going down here, going down low, Nick Hardy. Of course, him and Davis Riley coming off their win. I mean, there's definitely plays down here. I mean, I could go back to Pendrith at 7,000. He showed me a little bit of something last week. The first couple of rounds, he looked really good. Finished inside the top 30 after struggling here for a while. So I can probably get back on him. Who do you like in this low 7K?
I'm with you on some Koreans. SH Kim, I think right at the very bottom stands out.
KH Lee.
KH, Benny Ann. I like all those guys you mentioned. Ben Martin stands out a little bit. I always like some Poston, Hassler. I like your call about just guys that were playing good coming in, like Steven Yeager, Kurt Kitayama, KH Lee.
Batia. Yeah.
Batia's there too. Yeah. The guy I really like is Kitayama, though. I think he will pick up a little steam as the week goes on. But just again, we saw how well he's played in some of these bigger, stronger field like events with the big dogs in it. And then obviously getting the job done at API was a good start for him there. So I think just looking at that, someone like him stands out. I mentioned the other guys there, but yeah, there's a lot of options that are playable down here, Kenny. These are just the ones that stood out. Denny McCarthy going back up some. I liked your Cam Davis call. I think there's some that bet him this week. Here's another example, like Cam Davis. I got to look it up. Someone called it out earlier. I should have it like right here, but looking at Cam Davis. Yeah. So 26th here, last time out, but just look at his last three of his last four, 7th, 17th, and 6th. Stats all look pretty good on paper.
And the one missed cut he had, he shot a 64.
Yeah.
You're
on it more than I am. I mean, that to me just tells you, again, we'll see what his ownership and stuff gets to, but just looking at it, a lot of these options very playable, where, like I said, you could easily get 3 or 4 of these guys and leave those 8K guys out where you have to make a decision, or is it this guy or that guy? Who's it going to be? And just try and beat that range and build differently. So I definitely think there's some options down here. I mentioned a bunch of them, but just some of those that stood out to me, Akshay, who you mentioned, maybe go back to the well there. Just in general, though, a lot of guys down here that you can use. Will Gordon is at 6,900. We're going there next, but 6,900 has like Will Gordon, Luke List, who people liked last week, Aaron Rye, Joseph Bramlett. Like 6,900 is loaded with guys that I think people have interest in as well. So I expect
Spencer and Bramlett. Well, I was about to go down there. Those are the two guys that stuck out at 69 for me.
Yeah, I think people are going to go there. Just, I mean, it's okay. They go there. I mean, like, you're right. That's what we're seeing. There's options down here. Will Gordon, another one. And then Bramlett after last week. I think it just makes sense going down to some of these guys. Or anybody else 6,800 and below that you want to talk about?
I mean, we could talk about Matt Hughes, difficult course coming out there. You could look at him. His stats aren't going to say anything, but you get a difficult long course. It seems like he does well on those for some reason. Eric Cole, a guy who played well last week, I can get back behind. Dylan Wu, who could be in my cash lineup as of right now. He's made, I don't know, like 8, 7, 8, 9 cuts in a row, top 15 last week. Yeah, go ahead. I can have him as the lowest price guy in my cash lineup, no problem. Just so I can get those 4 studs, if I wanted to. I got no problem with that. Austin Smotherman, again, played well last week. Cam Champ, 350 to 1, 8 places each way. Yeah, I already put that bet in. When he gets hot, he gets, we'll see. He finished top 10 last week on a course. It's, like I said, very similar yardage ranges to hit your approach shots after your drive. So he's someone to look at down there. And Mullinex down to 6,400. Another guy who is long off the tee and really good with his longer irons.
I got to boost my Cam Champ exposure now, because for the bit, you just mentioned the each way conversation around that. So I can already see the post on Saturday night, Cam Champ's top 5, and Kenny tweeting with the screenshot. What do I do with this one, guys? So we got to play some Cam Champ.
I'm cashing the fuck out, bro. I'm cashing the fuck out. Now, I actually bet him at 300 to 1 with 8 places and at 350 to 1 with 5 places.
I'm in. We got to do it. I know.
I went both.
I like the Woo call. I said it's funny. You said could be in your cash. I mean, the full thing is on the table now, so that's good. But did you see the Andrew Novak tweet about?
Oh yeah, he was bitter.
And then
it's not Dylan's fault.
To post a follow. He's like, oh shit, Dylan's on Twitter. I have to say he's a good guy now, because I just sort of ripped him saying that this guy shouldn't get another one.
So if you didn't hear, Andrew Novak bitched on Twitter that he didn't get a sponsors exemption for this week, and Dylan Wu got his third sponsors exemption of the year. And so Andrew Novak sort of called Dylan Wu out on that. But I mean, it's not Dylan Wu's fault. I mean, fuck it. If they're gonna give you a sponsors exemption, you're gonna take that motherfucker. And besides, Wu's been playing better than you, Andrew. Not by much, but just by a little.
Might be a play better thing, though. You said it, Kenny. I mean, look at Wu is actually interesting. I know why
nobody cares. Work harder, motherfucker.
That's right. We know that one.
There you go.
But yeah, the stuff on him, and you mentioned it, but like, people are probably wondering why you like him for cash, or if you did just looking at it. But look at him, one missed cut in like his last 8 events, and there's three top 16s in there, and then add some top 35s and stuff. So I mean, he's definitely interesting to play at 6,700. I know Mayo is going to like Davis Thompson at 6,600. He always likes him. So he's a guy you could go to down here. I always play a little bit of Tyler Duncan. I like your Mullinax call. And then what are you going to do with this guy, Toasty? Now that everyone got to at least hear him speak and talk about him, he played really well last week. Strength of field changes, and he stays at the same price because this goes back to our conversation from last week. There's just nothing they can do about the prices. They're not going to boost him to $8,000 or something. They can't. The field's too strong. They're not going to plug him down at $6,000. He played really well last week. So instead, he just stays at 6,500. So on paper, he has to be a worse play because of the fact that the field's stronger and he's the same price. But when the lowest price goes is 6,000 and the field got that much stronger and he's still in it. I mean, he's coming off of a great week, got himself the top 10 exemption. Now probably way lower ownership to make it a little bit better. Kenny, what do you do with a guy like him at 6,500?
I mean, I don't know where the fuck I was last week because I didn't hear anyone mention him. I guess I was just not online as much as I normally am last week. I don't know why. Could be due to the acid. But anyways, like, so I didn't even roster. I know he's been crushing the Corn Ferry Tour, right?
That's what happened. He was coming in on like 4 top 25s or top 27s or better or something, with 3 of them being top 15s or something.
I mean, I knew that.
Right.
But I didn't know like everybody was going to be on him.
It led to that. So yeah, that's why I'm wondering would you go back to him this week or did you miss the boat?
I mean, here's the thing. If you played well last week, like I said, pretty similar, like not similar course, but similar yardages, you're going to be hitting your approach shots too. I can get behind it.
All right. Sounds good. I got nobody else down here right now. First look.
All right. Bets. I only have 3 right now. First, it's Hovland 20-1, Cam Young 22-1, and then Cam Champ 350-1 with 5 places each way, 300-1 with 8 places each way.
All in Cam Champ. Yeah, I'm with you on Hovland 20. I got Thigala 4. So all these with 8 places. Thigala 45. Usually don't do it more. I usually go 50 or above, but that was good for 8 places with Thigala, I thought. Mitchell 60, Woodland 90, and Kitayama 110. I like that Kitayama number. I mean, again, if you get super popular, so it's probably not the best play on DraftKings because we named like 30 guys down there that you could play instead. But the point being, his price seems cheap. His odds seem good. He's definitely a guy that I could see showing up again. He's just been playing really good golf. So I like that. I like the card. 5 guys right now, room for more, only Hovland up top. So I don't know. You know what? I actually have a feeling, and it segues to one and done, Kenny, because I'll give you, I don't have like Rory or Homa or any of those guys left, but I think X is really interesting this week in DraftKings, squeezed between Cantlay, McIlroy, and Finau coming off the win or just going down to that 9K range. And then I just look at his numbers, like everything we said earlier about Sungjae or about Finau going into last week. Go look at X, 4th, 10th, 8th, 19th. I know he's priced at 10-7 and he's like 14 or 18-1 in the betting market. But the point being, I mean, that's what it is. The favorites have been doing very well this season in the betting market. So I think for one and done, if you've got X, I think way more people will be on like Rory and some of the other guys, the Homas, or there's guys that they'll use. There's so many options here that I really don't mind it. If you got X, I like using him one and done. I had Finau.
I was thinking about Rory, but I think you might have sold me on Xander. So
like Xander.
You might have sold me on Xander on that. And I was thinking of just using Rory. It's an elevated event. Why the fuck not? But I like your take on Xander. It's going to be one of those two for me, Rory or Xander, for my one and done.
Yeah, and I wonder too, you can always see, by the way, I had Finau last week and that worked. I got him in there.
Nice.
Yeah, only 54% have Xander left. Now, mind you, only 41% have Rory. So that kind of negates that argument just to look at it now that I see the actual ownerships. But it's getting slim, but there is guys up there that you can use. Like what is JT? I was trying 50% JT, 70% Jason Day, 48% max home. So all it tells me, I guess, Kenny, the point I'm trying to prove is that it will get spread out in one and done as well. Like we're not going to see a 25% Xander probably. So it's just, that's where I find an angle like that. I would take advantage of it. I think he can do well.
I might throw up Homa because this is like the last Homa course, right?
Yeah.
That he plays, other than, if you want to use him at the U.S. Open.
No. I would reverse that too. It's up to you, but that's why I'm thinking of it in a different way. But I'm saying, like, again, you could use Homa here as the last Homa course and use X at the U.S. Open, but he'll be way more popular for those that have him left at the U.S. Open because he always crushes U.S. Open. So tough to say, but that's where I'm at.
All right, that sounds good. All right, you can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find my article on GupsCorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership to Gups Corner.
Find me on Twitter at ToeTagAndTambo. The tidbits will be out Wednesday morning. As always, I'll be right here on this channel as well on Wednesday with Mayo doing the in-studio show and still riding the free agency train right now, Kenny. So I'm just hanging out, doing my thing, having some fun. I actually bought a trailer. Well, maybe we'll see. But if I get it, maybe I'll post it out or something. It's pretty cool. So maybe do some more
like an RV.
Glamping. Yeah, like glamping. I've been talking about this for a while with the family. So basically, we set it up at my parents' cottage. I posted about it before, but you go down there. It's like there's a lot. You can just post it up, and it's got like rooms, and it's got a bunkhouse for the kids. Got an island to cook out. Like you can do everything there. So I don't know. It might be a good investment. We'll see. Have some fun with it this summer. Enjoy some family time. But yeah, it's been good. Taking a little break, but itching to get back in, Kenny. Itching to get back in, doing what I love.
What we need to do is like take the show on the road. Like one year, use a trailer, go to each golf event. Just fuck work. I mean, you don't work other than this. I'll take some time off. If I get that 6-figure bonus, I'll just take like a month off, and we can just go from course to course.
I will do that for we'll find if we did that for 1 month, it would be fun.
Yeah.
We get, even not that trailer, but we could rent a trailer and just drive around and go event to event for a month. Man, you got to get Wi-Fi. We do it live from the Kill RV. That's right. The content fest. We just everything and put it all out there. That would actually be a lot of fun. So
I would be 100% down with that. Now,
disown my family for 1 month and just go out and.
Now the only issue is I am the only estimator in my company. So if I didn't work, then like people would lose their jobs. That would be the only issue. But hopefully we can figure something out. All right. Anything else?
No, good to go, man. Gonna be excited. It's a big week. Lots of good tournaments over on DraftKings for this one. So should be a great week overall. I'm excited.
Yeah, big week, informative podcast. I learned new shit. You gotta love it. Let's win some motherfucking money. Degen Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the molly.